Welcome back to another episode of FLA Book Club. I'm Andrew Mastrapa.
I'm Caleb Height.
So this quarter we've been reading Divergent by Veronica Roth. This book fits into the categories of science fiction, young adult fiction, and utopian and dystopian fiction. So, tell me a little bit about how you like the book.
Okay, so I really did like this book, honestly. I kind of went into this assignment thinking that it would be like really awful because I hate reading. But
Who does?
yeah,
What?
right? So, but I mean,
Movies.
a friend recommended me this book, and I was like, okay, fine, I'll give it a try because I need a book to read. And I actually couldn't put it down once I started. So I really enjoyed reading, reading how this main character Tris kind of has to fit into like this weird society or like a world where like it's like divided up into like factions and groups and stuff like that. So my opinion was positive. I really liked it, and I would definitely recommend this to anyone else who's interested in this type of genre. What about you?
I feel very similar in the fact that I'm not a reader. Like the last book I read was the last time I had to do a book report. But
Right?
when I opened this book, I remember sitting through the first couple chapters and being like, "This is really cool," and it's so original. Like I haven't read anything like it, probably because I haven't really been reading. But yeah, it's just nothing like it.
Yeah, I felt the same. It was really unique, and I actually think she made like other books too.
Oh yeah, there's this is one part of a trilogy.
Okay.
I think it's Insurgent and Allegiant.
Yeah, Allegiant comes after that.
Also, she's doing a side series on one of the characters in the book, one of my personal favorite characters, Four.
Yeah, so she's written like a lot of books that kind of expand the story after Divergent, which we're planning on reading later on.
Yeah.
You know, next book report.
Next quarter.
Yeah.
All right. So what is Divergent about?
Okay. Well, basically, there's this girl named Beatrice, and she lives in a world where there are factions. There's five factions. There's abnegation, which she is. They value selflessness. There's amity, which value peace. There's candor, that value honesty, and erudite, that value intelligence. And then one more very important, dauntless, they value bravery. So basically, whenever you turn 16 in this world, you have to take like a test.
Kind of like a aptitude test.
Aptitude test, that's what it's called.
Except for it's not your normal aptitude test where you fill out on a piece of paper. No, they inject you with some sort of crazy sauce and like.
And then you go in like
into-
this trance that like,
Yeah.
like I don't know, it's like weird tests and stuff. They put you in weird scenarios that help determine like what faction you fall under.
Yeah.
Except she was kind of special. She fell under like 3 separate factions.
And this makes her divergent.
Yeah, so which also made her dangerous for some reason in her society, which we'll get to later. So it's bad to be divergent there. That's a dangerous thing. So she basically has to hide that while she has to deal with the fact that she doesn't know what faction she wants to go into because like the next day is like the faction choosing ceremony. She ends up kind of like going away from her home and abnegation and her parents and all that and actually going into dauntless at last second.
Yes. And this is kind of a big like hit on her parents as they kind of blame the parents for not raising her well and wanting her to stay in abnegation.
Yeah, so it kind of looks bad on
And
them.
the same thing happened with her brother. Her brother chose a different faction too. He chose erudite, which is the intelligence faction.
Yeah, so that kind of looked bad on the parents, and she felt bad about that. But I mean, she did what she felt was right, which was going to dauntless. So she basically has to. It was a lot more than she expected. It was really rough. Basically, they put you through this crazy like mental and physical like challenging like training that if you don't finish in like the top 10, you basically get kicked out.
You become factionless, which is
Like
this
homeless,
society's version of homelessness. Like you become dirt. You're nothing.
Yeah, so that's a really bad thing. So she has to fight like her friends, and she's got to go through all these like challenges and like trials. Like they put her through like this paintball like capture the flag thing that's like super big, and she's got to like learn how to like throw weapons and like handle them and like hand-to-hand combat, stuff like that.
And she starts at the bottom of it, and she actually works her way up to the #1 spot.
Yeah, which was like a huge like plot twist because she was doing pretty bad for a while.
And you could credit this pretty much all to her being divergent.
Yeah, and also Four, that helped her a lot too. That Four was like her mentor, I guess. He was already in dauntless.
Later love interest.
Yeah, that comes a little bit later in the story. And he ends up kind of helping her out get to the top spot because whenever he was an initiate into the dauntless faction. So yeah, so then basically the government kind of like turns and kind of takes over the Dauntless faction, kind of turning them against Abnegation, along with like the Erudite kind of pairing with the government. They end up like putting in the crazy juice into all the Dauntless people, kind of making them.
It's mind control serum.
Yeah, it was like mind control serum that made them want to kill like all the Abnegation. They wanted to like get rid of them.
And that was kind of like this big plot done up by the leader of the Erudite faction, who has been battling back and forth with the Abnegation faction for a while.
Yeah, they've hated each other for a long time, so it was kind of like a battle, just like building up like until it was gonna happen. So
anyways, we don't want to ruin the story.
yeah, no, we don't, but it is a crazy adventure. Triss and Four like having to go through, because that crazy mind control juice actually doesn't affect them because they're both divergent. Yeah, Four ends up like she ends up
like
finding
revealing
out
that he's divergent too, and it's crazy.
Yeah.
So
yeah, it's really, really cool.
I loved it. It was a great read. How can you connect this to your life?
Okay, well, Triss went into the Dauntless faction kind of like not knowing anything. Like she was completely new. She didn't know how to act or anything like that. Cause like in the Abnegation faction, like they wouldn't even like look into the mirror. Like anything that considered involving yourself like was against the law. It was outlawed. So the Dauntless faction was filled with like weird things that she wasn't used to, and I feel like maybe going into a private school for the first time freshman year was kind of.
Right, because you came over freshman year. You moved from Tennessee, I remember.
Yeah, I did. So that I can kind of relate to Triss in that way, kind of being new and not really knowing like how to act and like what to do. You know, just kind of like having to kind of sit back and like not look dumb, so that you don't draw attention to yourself. What about you?
You know, Triss went through a lot when she tried to choose her faction, and I can kind of like relate to that now, choosing what I'm going to do with my life and what college I'm going to pick. Even though I'm not spilling my own blood into a bowl, I do feel like, oh my goodness, what do I do? What's going to make my parents happy? What's going to make me ultimately happy? And so in that sense, I kind of relate to Triss.
Okay. So just to wrap up here, what was one thing you liked and one thing you didn't like about the story?
Oh man, I love the setting and the environment of the story. It kind of like really pulled me in, and I felt it was so unique, and yeah, the elements.
Okay. What did you not like?
I did not like.
I didn't really like dislike anything. Like the whole thing.
You know the guy that kills himself? What's his name?
Al.
I hated that part, man. I felt bad for him.
That was rough.
He just wanted to. Oh yeah, sorry about that.
It's okay. It's alright.
Basically, what he does.
He's not important.
He tries to kill. He tries to kill Triss.
Yeah.
Then later feels bad about it. Triss is like, whatever. I don't want to hear it. And so he's like, he feels so bad about it. He jumps into this abyss that like.
Yeah, it was crazy. So I guess one thing I really liked was, you say like the setting or whatever.
Yeah.
I really liked how it didn't really explain, like a lot of people around Triss were divergent too, but like toward the beginning of the story, like you only thought like it was her. But like toward the end, there was like a lot more than like you would think, and it was really like a plot twist, like even maybe. I'm not gonna spoil it, but maybe some people she was close to kind of ended up being divergent as well. So they were going through the same thing she was. So I feel like a lot of times in life, you don't realize that a lot of other people are like in the same boat you are.
Yeah.
So and then one thing I didn't like, I didn't like certain people dying. I mean, yeah, Al, but like toward the end, some other people died, and
rough.
That really made me upset. But it's okay. It's still a really good book.
It's a great book.
We definitely recommend you read it. Divergent.
Get it?
Get it. FLA Book Club.
Yeah.
All right. That was a good day.